Hi, everyone. This is Professor Labriola from Thunk Tank Podcast, and thank you for joining us here today on our latest episode all about how to nail your next job interview. One of the main courses I teach in college is professional communication for business majors, and so I wanted to take some of those skills, expertise, lessons, guidelines that we use in our class and talk about them here on the podcast, and as well with our other co-casters, Johnny and Luke, who both have vast experience within their own fields. I think you'll really get a lot out of not just how to prepare for your next job interview, but really how to nail that next job interview, like I said, and make a long-lasting impression. And it all starts here with, I think, some great conversation and hopefully what you find as great advice. So if you like what you hear, please consider subscribing, consider sharing this with others, and check out our Patreon page for extras. That's patreon.com/thunktankpodcast. That's thunk, as always, with a U. Other than that, hope you enjoy, and see you in the tank.
Attention humans, this is a thunk tank. Please insert this podcast directly into your nearest orifice for viewing pleasure.
Okay, you ready? Oh, shit.
Welcome to the Thunk Tank. Welcome to the Thunk Tank. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Come into our Thunk Tank.
Luke, don't switch to the other peanuts.
Welcome to the Thunk Tank. Come in the tank. We're thinking, and we're drinking,
And we're thunked.
and we're thunked.
Oh my god, I'm probably more beer than man if we go far enough back at this point.
We are live. We are live.
We are live
on Thunk Tank Podcast, and by live I mean, you are alive if you're hearing
recording.
this.
It's live while it's happening.
It's good to be alive.
Yeah.
It's good to be alive. You know,
Life is good.
that's true. What's
Yeah.
up, guys?
Not much. How you doing?
This is our episode all about. Johnny, take it away.
Oh yeah, what's this episode about?
So, I'm getting ready to move soon. So, I wanted to do an episode on getting gainful employment or getting employed. Employment. I have to write a resume. And
maybe we should like clickbaity title this, be like how to succeed at any job interview, something like that.
Yeah, how to like nail
You know those
every job
clickbaity
interview.
titles that like they're good ones when you think to yourself, maybe there is a shortcut to that really complex skill.
Yeah.
You know,
maybe
it's
there
like-
is something that dermatologists hate that I figure out.
And then you've clicked on it and it's too late. Even when you're like, shit, I didn't really want to.
And when it's a specific number, like 9 ways to lose 50 pounds in one day, it's like, what? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, numbers seem to make you think it's actually real.
I really just need one way. So anyways, yeah, Joe's kind of an expert on this. Us thunkers have very varied like skill sets and random stuff that we've done throughout our lives. And one of Joe's...
That's true. We have quite a resume, I think, among the three of us.
Oh, yeah. Between the three of us, we make one like fairly interesting dynamic person, I think.
Well, that's your first
Imagine
mistake.
if we were all one person, we would actually be like minorly successful.
Yeah, we could Voltron into a good person. But anyways, one of Joe's is he did like career counseling and stuff for people and helped them make resumes and all that crap, right?
That's not what I do. No, that
you
is
did
what I do.
though.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing.
Oh, okay. So he did that for a while, and then
But see how good I am at lying, which is something I would like to talk about. In
Yeah,
terms
that's
of
a big part of getting a
gaining
job.
employment.
So I have to get a job. I have a field I'm actually staying in this time, but I'm moving to a totally different area where I don't know anyone. So I have to like get a good resume, and I have to learn how to interview again, or at least remember. And I'm trying to get a job I want, but I'm not really qualified for. But I'm almost qualified.
If it helps you or makes you
That
feel
makes
any
sense.
better, that's already where most people are starting from.
Right. So that's why I figured that's a good.
Yeah.
It's a good time to do this episode.
Well, it also depends on what stage of employment are you talking about. As you said, the fact that there's very different stages of just job development or job situation, right? Where if you need a job, oh yeah, I just need something because I have to start making money. I'll apply to be a dishwasher. That's kind of hard to fuck up, getting a job dishwashing. There's very few contexts where you shouldn't be hired as a dishwasher.
Right, like if you're not hired to work at Google, like it's possible that you were just outcompeted for that job. But if you're not hired for an open position as a dishwasher, chances are you put off a vibe that really disturbs someone or something like that.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily. They might be like, this person doesn't really want this job. They're going to leave in 2 weeks when they find something else. I'm not bothered.
Or it could be that. Yeah, they know it's a temporary. Like you just need to make like $500 in 1 week, and you'll
and it gets more
bounce
complicated.
Or something.
Yeah, as the jobs sort of increase in complexity.
Oh, before we get into the weeds, we should talk about beer.
Oh
yeah,
we
we're
are
drinking an incredible beer too. So you can start off since you brought it up, Luke.
All right, so I'm drinking Treehouse Curiosity 65.
Oh man, Treehouse! Wow, that's crazy!
Bastard.
What a departure, Luke.
Luke, can you bring me some Treehouse?
Well, it's weird. I check my mailbox every day, Johnny, but like, there's no beer like appearing from other diverse locations. So,
well, I mean, I hunt down my beer, motherfucker. We went to Raleigh and searched all the good beer.
I just happened to be in Massachusetts recently, so Treehouse.
Yeah,
it's good beer though, and I definitely tend to gain weight when I drink beer like Treehouse versus when I don't.
I need to run like 5 miles tomorrow.
You know how much flaked?
I have to gym hard tomorrow.
They put a lot of flaked like oats and wheat and stuff into those.
It's a lot of
beers
calories,
that hazy, thick mouthfeel, and that's you get a lot more calories than like a regular pale ale.
Yep, for sure. So what are you guys drinking?
We're drinking one of the beers I brought back from my Genie quest to Wisconsin.
Oh, is that the time when you pooped in a museum?
Yeah, that is the time.
Like, share,
listeners of the
subscribe.
show will recognize that's a callback and not just Luke being gross.
Well, it's both.
Where I did have some epiphanous moments while
Is that what you call it?
using the shitter in a museum in the State History Museum in Madison, Wisconsin. Beautiful museum, very clean facilities. I got to say,
They were clean. They were clean.
they were clean. The state houses were even better. It's all marble, so you're like, oh, they just hose it down, Anyways. Even the stall doors and stuff are marble. It's crazy.
Nice.
Really?
Anyways, this is a New Glarus Brewing Company beer. They're from New Glarus, is the town. Great place. If you're ever in that part of the country and you're a beer nerd, go to New Glarus, or at least
That was
go
very
to
Trumpian. Great place.
Go to any bar
Terrific.
in Wisconsin, and you'll probably have
Huge.
either
It's an
Spotted
American
Cow
place.
or one of their beers on. Yeah, one of their beers on tap. So this is their Mistral beer, and it's a single hop Bohemian Pilsner, and it's just really, really nice.
Isn't it cool to be drinking a beer that you can only get far away? There's like a sort of like when you're having it in the moment, you're like, I worked hard and fucking went on the hunt to get this beer, and now I enjoy it back at the nest,
So it says here,
I like the idea of a beer nest.
it's a limited edition.
Yeah, I don't know what the
and we
nest
make-
is in that example. Home?
I'm down.
It's just a pile
No,
of hops.
I understand.
They say this, that we make no promises we'll ever make this style again because Pilsners are tough to do and not that
I
worth it,
love a good Pilsner,
from a
though.
production standpoint, but I love a good
I love a
Pilsner,
really
too.
clean
and I really
Pilsner.
like this one.
Like, what's the place upstate, Joe? Do you remember their name by any chance? They specialize in
Budweiser.
like really
Great
clean,
Pilsner.
crisp Pilsners. They're like,
Upstate.
Genesee.
no,
It's not Genesee. It's a cream ale. It's not even a Pilsner.
I forget the name now. Shit. It's, I feel like it has the name Farm in the title. Oh, Suarez family. I just figured it out. So the Suarez family, like, is a really cool place because, like, of where it's located, you would think it's going to do the same, like, hazy IPAs that all these places are doing in the Northeast, and they're totally taking a different approach to beer, but they're, like, doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, Johnny double mic'd it there.
I wanted to feel like I was at a press conference with a bunch of different mics in front of me.
Yeah, that's what you were at.
All right, so let's go through it because people probably clicked on this and they thought, oh, look, this craft beer podcast is going to teach me how to take a proper job interview.
How to get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
let's
this
start
is
giving the
also
people
useful
some
'cause-
info.
All right, here are your 9 steps to success.
Oh,
1.
that's the title of the
Stop
episode.
listening to this podcast.
Oh shit! You should probably make that number 9.
Well, I started it with 1, so I don't have to come up with the other
Is
8.
one
See
the
how
best?
good I am?
Is one the best reason, or is one the least reason
as long
one
as
should
you-
follow?
It's both, because as long as you stop listening, my work here is done.
It's the legally required.
Yeah.
We've already got your download
I'll-
statistic. Just turn us off. We don't care.
Yeah, you've listened for more than 30 seconds. Go fuck yourself.
I love how I've ended probably half the episodes with like, whatever, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, fuck you for listening.
Yeah, very casually. And go fuck yourself.
It's like, you think
but
you're
this-
annoyed? Well, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
So I want to get a job specifically. I work in craft beer in North Carolina, and I'm relocating to Portland, Oregon, which is sort of a beer epicenter. Like a
It's
lot
not
of
the
hops
worst place to move, like in terms of difference. Like,
for my I don't know what that means. That wasn't
I mean,
a real
it-
sentence.
He meant beer.
I meant the
vibes
beer
and
scene
beer.
is pretty similar
yeah, I mean that's
in
a
that it
different statement.
exists
It's
in
totally
like
different.
robust.
It's
it
more
exists.
prolific than it exists.
You're
There you
not
go.
going to Utah.
Not going to Utah. Not going to Dubai. Going to Portland, Oregon. Where most of the hops grown in North America, I'd say more than 75%, because it changes every year, come from the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Northern Cali, over there, because the weather is just perfect for them to grow. That's why they grow a lot of weed there too. They're very closely, for cannabis, they're very closely related. So they just grow like crazy there. So because of that, they have a long history. Craft beer is one of the places where craft beer really took off when Americans started growing all these crazy different hop varieties. And they have a more established history of IPAs and hoppy beers, which are kind of new in the last 10, 20 years for a lot of other places. So I'm excited, but I want to get into the actual production side. I work more sales and like bartending at craft breweries. I've done like some back of house helping out stuff, but I want to get just like dive into like a production job where most of my stuff is either assisting in brewing or cellaring and like doing something in the actual brewery.
So you think you're too good to do ground level work, is what you're saying?
No, I want to. No, I'm what? No, I want to do the ground level.
I know. I'm just trying to throw you curveballs. Get you locked and loaded, baby.
Yeah, I want to actually. It's what's crazy is brewers tend to make less in like a good tap room. The guys making the beer will make less than the guy serving it to you, just because you can make good tips in a busy bar. So I've been waiting for us to move and for my wife to get a better job, so I could take the pay cut of actually doing what I want, which is make beer.
Right.
So I'm hoping if I could fit that into the conversation, that'll help. Be like, oh, this guy actually wants to do this. It's not, like you said, a dishwashing job where he's like, I have this skill. It's the best way for me to earn the most money. So I'm not passionate, but this is what I'm trained in. This is what I'm going to do. It's like, no, I'm giving up like a more lucrative skill to try to get this one.
Yeah.
Along those lines, what is your greatest skill?
My greatest skill,
Or
girth.
your greatest strength?
Girth.
Your greatest strength.
This
and
makes me
skill
think
is
of
also girth?
Ricky Gervais' The Office, where he's asked, "What is your greatest weakness?" And he says something like, "That I don't realize how awesome I am." I forget like exactly the line,
Yeah. No, my
but he
greatest
makes his
strength
greatest
is-
weakness clearly a strength. Oh, here, Yanka.
My greatest
taste this
strength,
beer.
I would have to say, is I'm willing to do whatever. Like I'm never going to say that's not my job.
Do whatever. You say that to the hiring manager. I'll do whatever for this job.
I'll do whatever.
That's what you're
do I
gonna
say
say.
something? I have to sound more pretentious. I'll do whatever duties are required of me. Or the phrase that people
No, I
like to
thought you
use in
meant, like-
small businesses is I like to wear a lot of hats.
I thought you meant like
I like a
I'll
company
do
where you have to wear a
anything
lot of
for
different
this
hats.
job. Anything.
No, I'll do anything after I get the job.
Okay.
Like I won't unless it's something dangerous or illegal. If like you hire me to do something
Yeah.
and you're like, hey, this guy's sick, can you help out with that? I'll be like, sure. Especially if it's
You can nurse people back to health?
I meant in specific the craft beer world.
Okay.
Like
So, what do you think
I'm not
about
gonna go to his
lying
house
during
for
an
a suit.
interview? Then,
I mean,
like in some sense, you have to lie because you're clearly not going to be totally honest. You know, like what's the
I don't know if
difference
it's
between lying?
it's more of a
and,
skewing.
And yeah, that's a George Costanza
You want
thought.
to you want to skew it into your favor, you know.
It's not
like,
a lie if you believe it.
like if I tell you, like honestly, I have a lot of confidence issues, and I get down on myself whenever I get overworked. It's like, yeah, a lot of people can say that, but you don't ever actually say that. You know, you have to put this optimistic version of yourself forward.
Well, isn't
right?
the whole thing you want to turn your weaknesses
Sometimes.
into strengths? Like you want to sort of frame. If somebody says in an interview, "What is your greatest weakness?" You want to say something where you can say, "Oh, yeah, I would say that one of my greatest weaknesses is that I agree to do too many things. Sometimes I take on too many tasks."
That is something. Like I don't.
Well,
turn
that's
down
the
shifts.
Ricky
I don't
Gervais
turn
line
down
that I
work.
just said, right? It means that you're tricking the person and trying to give a strength and pretend that you
Yes.
view it as a
Yeah.
weakness, but it's a secret strength. It's counter signaling. You're trying to do a bluff hand in the poker game of like social interaction, you know?
But it also still is a weakness. It's not necessarily not true. Like it
I
is a
know, but
weakness
you know that
you
it
spread
can be
yourself too
looked
thin.
at as a strength from the point of view of the interviewer, you know?
Yeah, but the interviewer should know that. The interviewer
Theoretically,
should know
but most people
are
are dumb, so most people aren't going to pick up on like counter signals. They're like,
Even
"Oh, gee,
better.
look, that person was both hardworking and humble. They got twice." It's the fucking anonymous Ted Danson thing from Curb. You know, he gets to be anonymous and he gets the credit.
Had to interview for a job. Because,
Yeah.
You know, I only
because
took.
you're-
I only
you're
took.
making-
This is his interview. This is his interview.
Your argument for why you should do that is exactly the argument for why you should.
I only took 2 job interviews in my life, and they were the softest of softballs ever. But I nailed
that
them.
happens
Let me
too.
just say that much.
Yeah, you put that ball on the tee, I'm going to hit it out of the infield almost every other time.
It was sort of
what
like,
were you-
hey, you're the only
Did you just play
person that
trumpet?
was recommended for this job, but we
Luke-
have to have
Luke
a
showed up
formal
to-
interview to make sure that you're not a psycho.
Luke
That-
showed up to be a dishwasher and he brought his trumpet and just started playing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I didn't.
I would say that is my greatest weakness, though. Is I don't turn stuff down. I won't
but that's
say
what I'm
no
saying,
to
that-
stuff. I have this. I definitely have some fucked up psychological problem where if I equate work to value, and if I'm not working enough,
That's
like,
pretty normal.
I don't like. Yeah, a lot of people.
But that's
get
what I
their
mean.
meaning
That's
from
okay
it.
to then say as a weakness because it's not a worst case weakness. It's
Like right
honest.
now, I was supposed to be working part time just to like pick up some money and not go nuts before we get ready to move. And some people quit, and like the guy who tried to hire to work, so I'm back to working 6-7 days a week because like I won't say
Yeah.
no, even though I have stuff I need to do to get ready.
Yeah.
And like I'm not going to be there. Like after I move, I'm never going to go back to work there. It's not like I need to maintain a good relationship with them. I will. I like the people I work with right now.
Yeah.
But like I'll just say yeah, sure, at my own detriment for the job, which isn't a great skill.
I mean, that's like an evolutionarily like default safe move. It's like, well, it's better to keep collecting nuts even if you're not sure if the winter's going to be bad or not. You know,
yeah, kind of.
like I think
but
we're
the nuts are
programmed.
dear.
Like your parents probably programmed you with the same thing mine did, which is like always pick up the shift. You know, maybe your back will break
Right.
tomorrow, and you'll be happy you got those 3 extra shifts. So you did,
Or maybe the company will go out of business and it'll take
whatever,
6 weeks to
yeah.
find a new job.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you gather ye rosebuds while you may. You know.
Oh wow! For old time, she is a flying, and that same
Yeah.
flower that, fuck, what is
Come on.
that?
Tomorrow
Something
will
today,
be a
tomorrow
dying.
will be dying. What is the word for that? Flowers today?
I don't remember. You're the one who had to go further. I was just quoting the one line. You're the one who dug this. Man.
All right. So from this
You're lucky
point
I
on in
helped
the
you as much as I
podcast,
did.
let's just play Dead Poets Society. Let's just like play the audio from that movie.
What? No, that movie is not great for this because it's all about don't study so hard. It's more important to like have a good life experience than
Yeah.
worry about getting a job. This episode's about getting.
Oh
the
right,
job.
right. Okay,
We
never
can do
mind.
our
We'll do the
every
Dead
other one
Poets
we do is an
episode some
artistic
other
one.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone's
this
like,
is the one cast.
You should be an
not-
artistic loser like you are listening to our podcast right now.
All right, now
Yeah.
let's imagine that somebody actually stuck it 15, 16 minutes in, really thinking they're about to get some real advice. Let's give it to them now.
I thought we just did. What was all of that? I thought that was pretty solid.
That's gold.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong, but maybe we should do a
Well,
mock
I'll-
interview and like sort of give a sample of how to implement some of these practices in the wild, so to speak, you know, when
Sure.
you're really
Oh,
in
we
the
could
real
totally
world.
do that.
So maybe
Because we're both
who should
business,
interview who?
we're all business professionals. We know how to like simulate these kinds of things.
I'm amazed that Luke has a T-shirt on.
Yeah. I've done a lot of
I've been
interviews.
going
I
at it
interview
since
really
7
well.
p.m. and it's midnight and 16 minutes.
That sounds right. I've definitely gotten jobs I'm not qualified for because I was able to get an interview. That's how I got into craft beer. I had no experience bartending or in beer, but I was just real enthusiastic and same thing. I like gave up a better paying job because I wanted to do it.
Being personal
And
is such a asset, and once
and
you
it was
can
a
get the
specific.
interview,
It was a specific job I wanted, and I dropped off a resume a week for like the 8 weeks the job was posted. And when I finally went, he's like, the guy that wasn't the manager, was another guy there. He's like, "Hey, John," when I came in, And he's like, "You got another one for me?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'll put it on top of the other one that's still."
But now
sitting
you're on
his
top of
desk."
the other ones.
No, there was a pile of just mine.
Awesome.
Because I kept giving him.
No,
mine.
that's actually a really good strategy.
Another job I got was because I went and I brought a resume and I never heard back. So 2 weeks later, I brought another one in, and he was like, "I was like, hey, are you still hiring?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "I'm interested." He goes, "Here, just write your name and number down." And I flipped the piece of paper over with a bunch of names and numbers, and it was the back of my resume.
Oh my
And so I
God.
took it back and I gave him a fresh one. I was like, "Here, this is actually mine. Like, I'll give you a clean one. Here you go." And he's like, "Oh, cool, thanks." And and I took the one with all the numbers on it because it was my old resume. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah,
always,
yeah.
I
Updated one.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh yeah, I reformatted it
convenient.
so it's easier."
So
to
you
read or
committed
something. He's like, "Oh,
workers
thanks."
fraud.
No, I didn't.
That's
I
a
don't
felony.
work there.
That's a felony.
No, it's not.
He's a
No,
walking
I know a
felony.
lawyer. That's a felony.
But like that got me the job, but also like it literally put me above the competition there. So yeah, interviews are important, but and I think that's why I interview well is because I'm awesome.
Well, I think you have to interview well because I've actually been on hiring committees before where, to be quite honest,
The most qualified person doesn't get it.
well,
on paper.
here's the thing.
How
and this
often
is
does
what I
the
tell-
most qualified person get it? Probably only some of the time.
Well, here's the thing that I tell my students that if you take this all depends on sort of the context. You can actually really study this and see, okay, for different types of company structures, like different size companies and different types of positions and what they're looking for, how they would assess what they're looking for in a resume, which is one of the reasons why if you Google resume templates, there's 1.5 million goddamn resume templates, and they're different by business type. By different fields have different style resumes because you're trying to highlight different types of skills or experience or job locations in different ways. So there's a lot of different styles of resume to begin with. But quite honestly, what I found in terms of actually doing interviewing was that, look, you put out a job posting. I mean, I can't imagine many job postings where you don't get way more applicants than you have time to even read them all, which I think
Exactly.
is often the case. And so what we would do, and what, as far as I know from other people I've talked to, one of the first things you do, this is actually true in the publishing world too, you give very specific guidelines on what you want in an application. And if they don't meet those guidelines, you go to the next one, because guess what? One, you don't have the manpower or time to read all of them.
And that's your
So
first
if
filter
somebody
of like they're not a
Yes, it's
great
the first
pay
filter.
or attention to details.
Or maybe they are, but somebody did a better job at it, right?
So you want like a series as a hirer. You want like a series of choke points where things funnel and
Essentially,
you can weed
yeah.
out. Because I noticed
Funnel
when I
points,
first,
yeah.
when I
Yeah.
used to apply like online when I was before I got into beer, and I would
Yeah.
just apply for everything. Like I wouldn't be able to submit the resume. Like the required field would be like college like you know,
Yeah, it's like
level
you-
of
you
college
need this
degree
requirement,
and I
yeah.
didn't have a degree,
Yeah.
and it was just like they won't even let me submit my resume
Right, 'cause
without
they're-
one.
'cause they're thinking-
even though the job requires no college experience.
Right, and because they're thinking, well, if 100 people apply, at least 25 of them who have that qualification are all going to be also really qualified.
Right.
So that's where sort of these filters come in, and that's what you wind up with. All of a sudden, well, you had 100 people apply, a bunch of them didn't submit the right stuff, so get rid of those.
They're off right.
And you're down to 50, you read their credentials, and part of what you're doing is you're really looking at, and it depends, because sometimes there's very specific skills where you're thinking, or your company is saying, this is what we need. We need somebody who can do this specifically, who can come in and has this level of aptitude with a certain skill or training or whatever. So sometimes there are hard line criteria that candidates need to meet. Other times it's just, okay, well, what are the skills in terms of, does this person seem valuable, competent, hardworking, accomplished, they
Right.
have initiative, everything else. And that's why cover letters we should talk about too, because that's a big part of that. But honestly, in terms of doing the actual interview, I found that really, when it comes down to that, a lot of the people that you bring in are just as qualified. You always have some people who you think, well, there's some really interesting stuff about their resume or cover letter, and they might not be as qualified as somebody else, but let's give them a chance because they might be a really interesting person with a very different perspective. And that's actually, I think, a much bigger factor where when I'm talking to somebody in an interview, I'm thinking, do I want to like hang out with this person all day?
At that point,
Because
it's mostly the social cue of it, right?
Well, I got news for you, because people would come in and we would say, "Oh man, this guy went to wherever, I don't know, wherever, Berkeley or something, like really high quality, and then you talk to the person and it's just like you get kind of a weird vibe or something, right? It's just kind of an awkward vibe.
Something doesn't click.
And you're like,
and
oh,
you think,
you're
I don't wanna work
closer
with
to
this
being
person.
an axe murderer than you were if you were cool about that greeting. Like,
I remember weird people coming in who had really good credentials, and then you just try to talk to them, and you look at each other after the person leaves, and you just all know without even saying, yeah, we don't want to hang out with this person all day.
right?
You spend more time with your work family.
Exactly,
I hate
yeah.
that phrase, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
your
no,
work family
that's-
than you
that's
do.
totally
with,
a
a lot of
factor.
people do with their home family.
So that's a different like.
I
degree
keep
of
a
factor,
detachment from my
but
work
it's there.
family. I'm deliberately the kind of person that you have to really prove that like.
That's fine, but you're never going to be the team leader. You're never going to get promoted.
Well,
that
I've never
for that
worked
guy.
somewhere where I go to the same place every day, so I go to
So
the
you're
same
a great
places
person
every
for
week.
this, because you have like no skills, basically, is what you're saying, right?
No, I
So
have
this is
such
great
a
podcast
specific
for you.
set of skills that they're virtually useless outside of like
elsewhere.
one context, you know,
Or the real
Right.
world, yeah.
Yeah, or the reality, we're
aka the real
discussing where
world.
jobs are.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
but
right, so
those are all certainly big factors, I think, right? And I think that's my advice
Yeah.
for just people. Here's some advice: if you're going into a job interview, look, there's gonna always be questions you can study ahead of time that you want to try to have answers for. But I think most importantly is just try to be real. Just try to. People say that try to be yourself, which is a cliche, but it's totally true.
It
You wanna
means that
try
you're going to
connect with
give
the
off a
person.
good vibe because when people are being honest,
Yeah.
they're settled into who they are. They sort of give off a relaxed vibe. But when people are trying to like portray themselves as something they're not, the energy is
Yeah.
like tense and like people pick up on that and they just don't like what's going on.
Yeah, well, it's not conducive to actually working with somebody day to day, 7-8 hours.
And as
a
you
day.
said,
Like,
it's
that's
as
not gonna
simple
get
as
it done.
putting yourself in the shoes of the interviewer. Pretend
Yeah.
you had the power to be like, all right, we have to hire somebody to work in that cubicle over there, and they'll be hanging out with us 8 hours a day, every day. What is the most important thing that we're going to choose? Well, yes, skill set is obviously important, but before the interview, the skill set part pretty much gets settled. It's the social vibe. It's like the energy that you're going to really make that decision based off of.
Well, it's also the competency in terms of you saying, especially where they say, "Oh, you say this on your resume," or "Tell us about this." What they're really asking is, "How is this useful for us moving forward?"
Right, right.
they always say,
How can you show me that connection that you're aware that, hey, yeah, that's cool that you did that. Don't really give a fuck because you want to come here now. So how is that useful to what we're trying to do, right? And sometimes those experiences don't line exactly up, and sometimes they do to some degrees, and it's certain skills that you can say, oh, well, this is a certain type of communication or work skill or whatever that I think I could do really well at because I've done it similarly in this other.
Hey,
context,
Johnny,
right?
cheers.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. Cheers.
So
Yeah, and because that's what they always say when you ask, like, you inquire about your chances or what they thought. Well, we're interviewing a lot of qualified candidates,
yeah.
and it's of course they're all qualified. Why would we waste time on an interview if they're not? What makes you stand out or special or like the
Right.
obvious choice? Otherwise, we're gonna just pick the three best and then
Well, that's what I
vote
mean.
on it. Does
You're-
that
you're
really
very
happen like in the movies?
You're very rarely going to be the most qualified person who goes in for a job interview. So you damn well better be prepared to be the most real person because that you have control over. You don't have control over your skills compared to somebody else's skills, right? But you do have the ability, if you can handle it, to say, all right, let me just prepare as much as I can, research the company, research the types of questions they might ask. Think
And-
about
yeah.
myself, like
You figure
what
out
they-
the best angle
you know.
from which to present yourself from.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of leeway in terms of how you can prepare yourself, which is actually kind of cool. You just need to know to do that and take the time to do it, which I think many people don't give it. People spend a lot more time on the application process and working on their resume and writing their cover letter and searching for jobs than they do preparing for the interview itself.
Because the things
and some
and-
people do, but you should.
And the things that go into the decision making at the level of someone's looking at your cover letter, your applications to whatever, those decisions are pretty mindless. They're often like little details. Whereas if you ever get to the interview stage, those decisions aren't just random. Those are the decisions of our, weird human psyche that reads social things, and those, although we don't quite understand them, and we kind of go off of feeling in order to understand them, they are really accurate. Like, I have grown to really trust my sense of who a person is. And like, that feeling where you meet someone new and then, like, let's say they leave and your other friend is still there and you're like, you kind of like confirm with them. You're like, that guy was fucking crazy, right? Like, you kind of have to confirm that vibe. And then when you confirm enough times with enough people that you trust that your read on people is correct, then you start to trust that read, And if you're the interviewer and you read that same, like, sketchy vibe from someone, of course you're going to trust that,
Yeah, that actually the opposite of that happened to me last year, where I had applied to teach some classes at another school, and I didn't hear back from a year because I just applied to their adjunct pool. And I got a call from the program director about a year later, just out of the blue. And because I got the voicemail and I thought, oh, crap, I should call this person back. And I called her back, and we had maybe a 20-minute conversation. She said, I saw your resume, your application. Looks really cool. Tell me about yourself, right? So I just had to be ready to go and start answering her interview questions. But my reaction was, oh, yeah, I had to call back right away because clearly she's going through the list and just calling people. So I wasn't going to
giving them maybe 10 minutes to call her back.
Yes, yeah. And she probably was, and I wasn't going to give her time to do that. So I just immediately called her back, and I said to myself, well, I didn't have time to really prepare for this, so I'm just going to acknowledge that for myself and try to have confidence in the fact that this is also a real person who is doing a job and wants to find somebody who's also a real person, right? Yeah. Especially in what I do, which is teaching, which you need to be able to try to be a real person, because
there's a certain wisdom in getting older about this too, Joe, which is like, you've been through the world enough and you realize that most positions throughout society are filled with people faking it, and most people know this.
A lot of them.
And so people who get the position of being like, hey, I'm the one in charge of hiring this position, if they're not totally nihilistic yet, they're thinking, you know what? I get to decide some good for the world. I'm going to really make sure I pick someone good and not someone lazy and who's going to do the wrong thing, all that shit.
I don't think that it's that moral. I think they go, I got to pick someone that I can stand for 40 hours.
Well, I got to pick somebody
the primary
who can also
thing,
do the job.
Yeah, they're going to do
a lot of levels.
They're going to do their job. They're not going to make my job harder. Yeah. They're not going to make me look bad. They're not going to affect my money. And there's somebody I can stand or at least get along with.
I mean, we're fundamentally selfish creatures, I guess, yeah.
But Luke, like you said earlier about kind of knowing the vibe, after I had a 20-minute conversation with this person, and she just said, all right, so I think we could do a couple classes. You'll have to come in and we'll talk more, obviously, but I can book you for a couple classes. And I go, I was actually kind of surprised. I was like, oh, really? And she goes, yeah, I have a good feeling about you. She actually said that. She said, I have a pretty good feeling about you. And I said, thanks, I have a good feeling too. Like, this sounds awesome, right? And she said, yeah, I have a pretty decent intuition, I think, and you sound great. So, yeah, come in Friday or whatever to do the paperwork, and we'll talk some more, but sounds good. And she just hired me on the phone after 20 minutes because, again, I didn't have time to prepare, but I went in thinking, this person wants somebody who's going to say, yes, I want to do this. I know how to do this. I can do this. Let's do this. And that's exactly what I tried to do.
It's like you hack the process, right?
I think so.
And I'm not saying hack in like in a negative sense, but you could call
this
it
like we were talking about
subtext.
Turning a weakness into a strength. Yeah.
The subtext of any interaction, if you can read that, you actually know what people want, even if they're not saying what they want,
Yeah, and I know from enough interviewing myself. Oh, I even the questions she was asking, I know, like, oh, you're looking for this type of answer.
Right. I mean, unfortunately,
and I can apply my own personality too.
But that shows in like an emphatic like awareness that is important, especially in your job as an educator.
Yeah,
to be
it
able
is,
to actually consider what the other person's thinking, because
That's
otherwise, how
everything,
do you know
yeah,
if they're
yeah.
learning? But that's most jobs. Because if someone can figure
it's just
out,
more obvious in my job. But you're right. It is.
But any
most
job,
jobs,
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah,
if
I
you
agree.
are, if I'm trying to get, and then you figure that out, it's like, okay, this person can pick up what I'm trying to get across, which is going to make being their boss very easy for me, because when I tell them to do something, they're going to understand what I'm telling
Yeah.
them.
Or when I tell
someone who
them,
just
like,
doesn't-
hey, this thing was your fault, they realize when, in fact, it was their fault, you know? And then maybe
But yeah,
even
that's
once they
that's an
work there,
example.
if you say this was your
Yeah.
fault, and they come back at you and they say, actually, here's the reason it's not my fault, it's your fault, and you're a respectable person, you'll go, wow, they're actually right. I'm going to admit it in a way that
Yeah.
like we both kind of grow in our respect for each other. You
Yeah,
want
this
that
guy's
kind of
never
person
had a
that
real
the
job.
relationship.
That's not a thing. I've had so many jobs, Luke, and that's not.
Oh, I'm
no
not
boss
saying
gives a
that's
fuck
happened in
about
the
that.
real
I'm sorry.
world. No, I'm
Oh,
talking.
okay.
I'm talking about like the fucking storytelling world where like that's the version you need to believe in or something.
Okay, well, I need a real job, not a Sleepy Time Junction.
and so do
story
the people
job.
listening.
not a
So let's
philosophical
get
job.
back
Yeah.
to the tip. So was that tip number 1 that you just gave there, Joe?
That was tip number 1.
Okay,
I have
so
a tip number 2.
What's
as well,
tip number
but-
2? Was that really all falling? We did 30 minutes on tip number 1 so far.
Well, we started.
That was like several
And
tips.
did we say we're doing 12 tips? Is it 12 tips?
12 tips.
12
to
tips for life.
Success.
the 12 tips to touch. That's what we'll call it. Is that a
12
weird way to
tips
say
to
it?
12 touch points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had another experience last year too, where I was applying to for a tutoring center, a writing center, and so this is actually a good.
You
example
needed help
of
with your
how-
writing?
I needed a lot of help with my writing, but it's actually in counter to what I was just saying, because for that one I did have time to prepare for, and I did.
And did it
thinking,
go worse?
This guy's. Well, thinking this guy's going to ask these types of questions about tutoring and working one-on-one with students. So I'm thinking of my teaching experience with doing student conferences, office hours, all that stuff. So I did a lot of preparation, and I get there, and he introduces himself, says hi, and almost immediately he takes out a piece of paper and he slides it across the desk, and he says, okay, so let's try this out. I'm a student. I come to you and I say, this paper's due in half an hour. Fix it. Go. And I look at it, and it's just an awful paper.
Okay.
I start reading, and it's immediately an awful paper. And so that's his interview style, is to just introduce himself and start a mock tutoring session.
And kind of
with
see
no
how you
other
respond
context.
to it kind of vibe.
Yeah. And so immediately my initial reaction is, oh, now it's time to panic and just kind of fall apart from there, because that's just initially because I wasn't prepared for it at all. And then I immediately, as that first wave hit me, it's like waves, right? That first wave hit me, and then I said, well, that's a ridiculous wave. Obviously, if I just panic and assume I don't know how to do this because I don't know what he's asking for exactly yet, that's going to end poorly. There's no way that
non-starter
ends
of a
well.
choice, yeah.
Yeah. That
Well,
that
so
doesn't end
immediately
well
you
in any
started
way.
recognizing, like, let me find out his motivation for putting me in this situation, and then I know how to solve it.
Well, but the problem is I couldn't do. That's what I wanted to do, but I realized I couldn't because I don't know what his motivation is. Because he's just throwing this. Like, I don't know what their
You could have thrown
philosophy
poop
is.
at him.
I mean that also would have been an option that I had not. That was third wave. Actually.
I think that falls under the bailing on the interview when you start throwing poop.
When you start
It
slinging?
depends on who's giving the interview, you know?
I think that's the same. You're with your actions. You're saying, "Yeah, I don't know what he wants from me." In this
Well, yeah.
job
If you start
and-
slinging poop at anybody, that means that whatever normal social interaction you were having is over.
Unless
I
it's like a
guarantee you
scat
1 out of
porn.
10,000 times
We'll try.
that will be the factor that gets you the job.
1 out of 10,000.
I think it's
there's
way
there's
less
like
than
100 million jobs in this country alone. That means tens of thousands of people got their jobs by flinging feces
I know
at
some
their
sick
boss.
people out there.
This guy's never had a real job. I want to say that again.
Okay.
This is why this
Wait,
Luke's
Johnny,
a great
me
guest
and
to
you
have.
worked on a
this
real job.
episode.
We worked on a party boat, man.
That was not a real job.
Oh, that's not real? Okay, then yeah, I haven't had a
no,
real
that
job.
was absurd. That you consider that your real job?
Yeah, Luke.
We
If you
worked
think
on
that's a real job,
We worked on a fake paddle boat that had a diesel engine that would go out and do little like brunch cruises. It was a great job and like it was real work, but it wasn't a real job.
Okay, fair enough.
Like the owner would just would be like, oh yeah, put the moldy rolls out, and the milk doesn't smell too bad even though it's out of date. Like that's not a
I
real.
just imagine like a
organization.
pirate cargo hold where all this moldy food was.
Yeah, and like, like it was a terrible place.
It was
to
a
work.
weird
Really,
job. It wasn't real.
The owner
Yeah.
screwed over the GM, so he just told the staff the key code to the liquor.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of shit
liquor,
that was going on.
fridge, and it just got ransacked. And it was like, yeah, I don't know. Didn't you fire me?
That's
I don't know
awesome.
what happened to your liquor.
Awesome.
And like, it's just that was
he
not
fire
a
him?
good working environment. I think he quit. No, yeah, I think he did fire him.
He knew he was getting
That was-
fired at the end of the year, something like that.
Well, no, he got paid at a yearly salary, and he's like, yeah, instead of a seasonal like thing, because it's a boat, it doesn't sail in the
Yeah.
winter. It was like, oh, I'll pay you more, but you'll have a job throughout the year.
Oh, right.
Or
I
I'll
think
pay
I
you a
remember
little
you telling
less
me
than
this, yeah.
you would for the season, but you'll be fully employed. And then his plan was like, well, you're never going to make that money because I just fire you in the fall.
Right.
And then I'll hire a different. And he's like, yeah, you're like the 12th manager in the last 12 years.
Yeah.
He just hires a new one every year and then fires them at the end so he doesn't have to pay them.
Right.
And when he realized that,
Right.
he was like, "Oh, fuck this guy."
Yeah.
that
And
was
he
a
sold the
terrible
liquor.
place to work. I learned a lot. I've had a lot of shitty jobs. I've worked, and I realized
Some
the
of
other
those
day,
you do learn
I've
a
worked
lot.
for all.
You
I've
learn a
never
lot
worked
from.
for like
you learn a lot from everything if you pay attention, right? But
Yeah.
especially a
Yeah,
shitty job.
That's true.
like I've never worked for
Yeah.
a publicly traded company. I've never worked for like a big corporation. I think with like a board of directors or anything. I've always worked for like small
guy.
independent guys. Yeah, and I've worked for
Wow.
some great,
Wow.
for some
I'm
terrible.
not surprised to hear you say that. Anyways, go on.
Actually, I've had female bosses.
Anyways.
I call girls guys too. Guy is just a catch-all. Hey,
yeah.
guys.
You shouldn't assume.
Yeah, you shouldn't assume I meant men when I said guys, Luke.
I'm
I know
not
you
the
did.
one assuming. Ass.
I know. I should have let you say it first. Yeah. He got me. Anyways, but like I've seen small business owners, and I've seen obvious things, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to hurt your business. And then I'm there
Yeah.
day to day at the entry point level, like of the dealing with the customers,
Yeah.
and I see it hurting their business, and it's like, yeah, I told him that, and he just ignored me.
Right.
So it's like I don't.
For whatever reason, either they think they know everything or
Or that this guy does. What do you know? And it's
Yeah.
like I'm the one doing the job. Like
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what I saw and what I'm
Yeah.
noticing. I've definitely had jobs like that.
yeah. Well, I would say so. Like I was saying earlier about the interview where I showed up, and so he does this mock interview, right? Or he starts this mock interview, and I don't know why my initial reaction was sort of panic, but it just was because it was just such a curveball. That's what I would call that, a curveball, right? And once I got through that initial wave, which was only a couple seconds, I stopped. I actually paused. And I said, I said, give me a second to think about this, because I didn't know, again, like what he was asking
Could
for.
be a trick question.
Yeah, and then I said to myself, okay, well, I know how to. I work one-on-one with students all the time for my class because I do
Right.
mandatory conferences with them. So I'm like, I know, and I've done tutoring for in other contexts. So I know how to tutor and I know how to work on papers. And I realized that I'm like, wait, I know exactly how to do this. I was just freaking out because I don't know how they want me to do it. But I realized I'm competent enough to do it well regardless. So even if they disagree with how, because I don't say the right things or whatever, or do it in the right order.
You're still proficient at it.
Yeah, I know I'm good at it because I get results from my students in my class. So I said, oh, obviously, just do it. Just do what I would do normally, or do it well, right? And so that's what I tried to do. Where I said, I started with the obvious question of, so what is this? Like, what type of paper is it? What class is it for? What's the goal? What is it trying to prove? And it turned out that's exactly what he wanted. He told me
'Cause I'm sure some
afterwards.
people- most people-
because that was just, I thought like that's what
Yeah.
you should do.
And,
That's
and
what
I'm
makes
sure
sense.
I'm sure a lot of people would sit down and look at it and fix all the grammatical mistakes
Yeah.
first,
And that's a mistake.
And then because that's just you're drawing
Yeah.
focus away from the
and that's a
point of the
mistake.
exercise.
Exactly, and that's that would be the wrong way to do it. And so, and it was funny after, it was the same vibe after we did that mock tutoring session. Then he asked me some other questions about my job experience and history. And that same at the end of the interview, he said, all right, so I'm going to book you for 1 to 7 Mondays and Wednesdays this semester. Sounds good. And I was like, wait, I'm hired? He just hired
Damn.
me on the spot because he said, yep, that's what I wanted. I'm not going to even let you leave without agreeing to this job.
Well, certain
You're the
jobs.
only one who gave Joe. You were probably the only one who left the gobstopper behind. All the other kids kept the gobstopper.
Yeah, you're right.
Charlie gives it back
Yeah.
to Willy Wonka.
Oh, yeah,
even
that's- that's how
even
I know.
after he loses.
Yeah.
he loses and didn't get the.
Don't you
the
love how
lifetime
Willy
supply of
Wonka gets so
chocolate.
fucking pissed off when he doesn't do it at first, though?
Yeah.
He gets like irrationally mad and like
No,
they-
that's not what he was pissed about. He was pissed. He knew he had it, but he was pissed because he broke the other rules. He hadn't broken
broke the rules.
Yeah.
You know, that's the first link on my syllabus. It says, make sure to read the syllabus in full because not understanding and or knowing the rules is not an excuse and you won't get anything. And it says, if this doesn't make sense, click here for further clarification. And it's a link on YouTube to that scene where he goes, wrong. It says right here, you lose, you get nothing. Good day, sir.
And he
Good
reads
day,
it back
sir.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
he's
the
like,
first link on my
et
syllabus.
cetera, blah blah blah. Yeah, he's like, you signed the paper. Like it doesn't like he didn't read it, but whatever.
And then he makes up a bunch of Latin words, I'm pretty sure.
you know
Yeah.
that quality.
It's great though.
of-
Good.
That quality of someone where they just don't get something, and then you explain it and they still don't get it. That's what you're trying to avoid when you're interviewing someone. You don't want the type of people that just don't get it, no matter what you do, how you explain it. If they just don't get it, they're going to be a bad employee. you
Right,
know?
but how come every job I've had, almost every job I've had, there's somebody I work with who just doesn't get it, and the person who I work for
Because
gets
that's-
it,
I-
and they
I have-
hired this person
I
who
think
doesn't
that's
get
most
it.
people
How does
out
that keep
there, dude.
happening?
That's why I think.
I think you're also forgetting how badly a lot of drug addicts come into interviews too and just bomb or just crazy way even the people that you're referring to.
I have a good story.
Who suck, they're still better than a lot of the other people who come into
I
interview.
worked for like a pretty big regional brewery's tap room, and like it was a pretty big, like lively tap room. A lot of business was popular, and when I was quitting, I gave like lots of notice because I was just going on to do something else. Like it was fine.
Yeah.
Like it was very amicable. I'm still friends with the guy, but he had an interview, and I came into work that day as the person walked out. I was like, "Oh, how'd the interview go?" He's like, and he asked me, he's like, "Can you stay on a couple extra weeks? I'm having trouble finding anyone." I'm like, "Why? What
Yeah.
happened?" And he's like, we sat down and we talked, like small talk for a minute. They like where they live in the area and stuff, and like they seem cool because that's his way of seeing you're a beer tender. Like how sociable are you? And she did fine with that, and then her experience was good at all that, like in terms of working with people. And he's like, all right, so I have some questions here I just want to ask you. And he asks like a couple, and then like the second or third one is, so what's your favorite beer? Because that's a question you ask as a beer bartender at a craft beer place. You ask them when they're like, oh, which one of your beers should I have? I go, I don't know. What do you like to drink? And he was like, what
Right.
kind of beer do you like? And they
Yeah.
go, oh, I only drink Blue Moon. It's like, okay, that's useful information. I'm not going to give you a stout if that's,
Yeah.
where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And so he asked that. She goes, oh, I don't really like beer. And just like that.
And she didn't even have the awareness that
She
maybe
didn't
that's a bad
expand-
thing to say at a beer interview.
And she wasn't like, I don't really like beer,
That's
but I
discrimination,
appreciate.
Lou.
Yeah, it's like, but I appreciate it for this or
On
that.
what
And
grounds?
like or just say, well, I don't drink much beer myself, but like I do love it.
Or
like,
to
lie
say,
a little bit.
oh,
you
like
want the
I
job.
have a gluten intolerance, so like I try not to drink beer too often, but I do love the taste. I think my favorite
least
is
lie.
IPA. Knowing that you're going to take a beer interview, you could even like fake an answer like that.
He tried to give her a chance too, and he's like, okay, I get that. Like, what do you like to drink? She's like, I mean, ciders and wine mostly. And he's like, all right, well, we don't sell that here, but he didn't say that. He's like, okay. And he tried to salvage it for him. I was like, well, if you were going to reach for a beer, like if that's what was available, like what would you go for? She's like, I don't know. I'm just really not that into beer. And he was like, all right. And he's like, I felt bad because she was nice and like clearly thought she was doing okay. So he didn't want to just end the interview there, but he like asked her a couple more questions and then wrapped it up.
That's like
But he was
letting the auditioner to keep playing their instrument, even though they're clearly not
right,
getting
even
it.
though,
But that's
it's like, yeah,
that's like
definitely
showing
not
up
this
for an
guy.
interview at a publishing house or something, and they say, "Oh, what do you like to read?" And you say, "I really don't like to read."
Honestly,
You know,
I
another
think
person
most
interviewed
writing is
at that-
bullshit. They'll be like,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I know that you would
just a
actually,
bunch of words.
No, that you would actually want as a publisher because you would say, "Yeah, I want you to be able to sort through the bullshit manuscripts."
I think
But saying that you don't like it, even though that's subjective and that's your personal life,
I'm actually horribly
important.
autistic. I'm gonna need someone to read the manuscripts to me. It's
Is,
like, no,
is this
'cause
Johnny Tells All right now?
it's no. I'm just saying that's what you say in the interview because then they're like, well, no, that guy reading it to you would just be the one who gets the job. Like, why would I do that?
But isn't that discriminating against somebody?
No, you can say that's the job requirement. Like, it's
Can you?
yeah. If you can't lift kegs, you can't have this job. Why?
That's
Because it's the keg
discriminatory.
stacking job. No, it's not. You can't perform the job.
So you say.
If you no, the law says with like reasonable accommodations, the Americans with Disabilities.
So where's that line?
Stuff like putting a ramp in, things like that. Like I have to build you an exoskeleton to move kegs. I'll just make a robot that moves kegs for me. Then, like that's unreasonable in any labor court, Joe. Like,
It depends.
don't try to out genie the
Why
genie.
Why does he need an exoskeleton?
Because he can't lift kegs because he has no arms. Like that's why you
this
just
guy
can't
can't-
have this job. Then,
this guy
man, it's
can't-
not discrimination,
Isn't it?
Like, how are you going to move kegs with no arms?
You should provide an
If
exoskeleton.
he shows up with an exoskeleton and it works and is badass, I'm like, all right. And even if he's like, yeah, it's not working today, it broke, I'll be like, all right, people get sick days, they can sprain an arm.
So you're saying the
you're-
government should supply exoskeletons?
Another time later that week, I was like, okay, I'm pivoting back. You can
That's
have.
fine.
I was like, yeah, I'll work another 2 weeks because I had already started the other job. I was like, I'll just do both for a while because I don't say no. Like I said, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll keep working here too.
Yeah.
And like there was another interview, and he came out of that one, and I was like, oh, how'd that go? He's like, that went great. Like I might call her tomorrow and have her come in and train. I was like, and I saw the person walk out, and I knew them, and I went, oh. He's like, why? What's wrong? I'm like, oh, nothing. And I knew I was like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't hire her. And then
Yeah.
she proceeded to sit at the bar and get hammered while he was also there, like working.
Wait,
And
she
kept
had
coming
just
up to him
interviewed and then she stuck around and got hammered?
got hammered, and like she was talking to me. She's like,
On
you know,
what?
I think I
She
did.
doesn't drink beer.
She's like, I think I did well, but
How'd
I
she
think
get hammered?
She's like, no, this is a different one.
Oh.
And he's like, and like I think I did well, and like I think I might get the job, but I could have done better. And she's like beating herself up. She's like, I'll have a beer. I was like, and relax. I'm like, yeah, you know, you deserve it, right? You had a good day. Like the interview went well. Just being a bartender.
Did
She's
she
like,
go
yeah, blah,
right
blah,
to
blah. And then she
drinking
had-
right after the interview, or was it at like a slightly different time?
Yeah, we had just opened, so she's like, oh, I'll have a beer before I leave.
And then she stuck around all day?
She closed the bar out.
Are you kidding me?
Like 5-6 hours later. It was a short night. It was like a
Wait a
Monday, so we weren't
second.
open
Is-
very long.
Wait, so she's really good at drinking.
That's
though.
a-
That's
But no, she was
impressive.
not only was she hammered, but she kept trying to go up. Like she wasn't sitting in the corner being a quiet drunk. She kept going up to him while he was busy doing stuff and trying to like restart the interview. Progressively worse because she was getting drunker.
Now-
And at one point, he looked at me like wide eyed and went and mouthed, "Oh my god!" while she was standing next
Oh
to
my
him. She didn't
God.
notice.
Oh
and
my
then after he left, he was like, I was like, you know that like weird look I gave you before? He's like, yeah, no, I get that now. And I was like, yeah. And so like it is tough. There are crazy people out there. And she left, and she like a week later I ran into her and she's like, oh yeah, you think I got that job? Can you put in a word for me? I was
But
like,
see, that's
well, I'm the
that-
one quitting, so I
But that's-
doubt I have any
That's
sway
a really
over
interesting,
my
specific
replacement.
example. Like we
And
were
no,
saying
I
earlier,
can't.
of that lack of awareness. That's such a lack of understanding of the situation. We call that in writing awareness of audience expectations.
That makes sense.
Are you aware
She
of what
totally
your audience?
missed
Dude,
Yeah, and
perfect.
That's a problem.
Perfect.
That's a huge
perfect.
problem.
Perfect. Audience expectations. It's like I'm in an interview. The interviewer is the audience. What do they expect
Yes.
of me? And deliver that, and then they'll be happy with me,
Wait,
and
does
they
that
might
mean-
fucking hire me.
Does that
Yep.
mean this isn't a good podcast? Because I have no awareness of what our audience wants.
It's Duluth Atheist.
I have.
It's just that guy we're playing to? Okay, then I got this. I got this.
He's listening.
Hey, buddy.
There's.
What's up, bud?
Hey, buddy.
Shout out to our main man in Duluth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
All right.
holding it
Anyways,
Well, so okay, so people have made it this far, and obviously they've gotten a lot of good
How far
advice.
is
They've gotten at least two.
oh,
bullet
I have a
points.
clip.
Two.
I have a clip to set up our mock interview. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, so I just figured let's do a mock interview and like give them like let's show them how to use this in the wild, how to use the various skills we've talked about and how to make them usable in the real world, right?
So let me test something here. Can you hear this video clip?
Under 6.
Oh, I'm hearing something. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. I thought I said. Sorry, Joe had to step out. I want to make sure I set the board up right.
Okay, good.
But yeah, so we didn't really cover the resume stuff because whatever.
Well,
that's
we'll
really
put that-
boring.
we'll
That's
put
not,
that in,
Who wants to hear you talk about text formatting? And we'll get back to it. But
We
so we're
should
gonna do a
make it
mock
clear for
interview.
anyone that stumbled upon this. We're just wasted, so like we're just trying
I'm
to
not
give
wasted.
our. Neither
I'll
am I.
suffer.
Neither am I.
But anyways, we're wasted.
But
Yeah, I wonder if anyone who listens to the podcast is like, wow, these guys are really dumb, and it's like we're drinking on every episode. Like I don't talk. We don't. Whatever.
no,
Go ahead.
but here's the challenging part, Johnny, is we don't know and they don't know what blood alcohol level we are for any episode, so that it's really hard to track like who we are across episodes, because some episodes are in the morning with coffee and most are in the evening with some beer, and then some, like tonight, we've both been independently partying and then like met up later, and we're both at home, so there's no consequences about how to get home, and it's just kind of a free-for-all.
Yeah, it gets out of hand.
That's kind of where I'm at right now.
I see that, yeah.
Like I'm looking at a computer screen and kind of barely trying to convince my brain that like it's crazy we live in a time where I'm instantly communicating with someone who's at least a 12-hour drive away from me right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I have no idea how any of it's working.
Yeah, you're not doing well right now to try to get this job in telecommunications, by the way.
Is this the job?
It might.
Can you
I think the job position we discussed, it might be a genie assistant or assistant to the genie.
Oh, I see.
Assistant to the regional genie, something like that. It depends how the interview goes to depend what.
Hey,
what
would you
job
rather
get.
work in...
You also might get like the Satan's like dog, like you just pick up the shit from his hellhound. Like you just walk around and clean it up with like a shovel. That's your job.
Yeah. I mean, whatever.
So don't mess up the genie because you might end up placed in. This is more like the Politburo. This is how in the Soviet Union or whatever, when you turn a certain age, you just like report, and they're like, "Well, we need these jobs, so that's your job." It's like, but I'm actually really skilled. It's like I already told you what your job is. Why are you still standing? In front
Yeah,
of
I mean, you should
go
have
break
started
rocks.
your
We need
job
people to-
already.
Yeah, it's like there's rocks that you need to break, and it's like I'm actually a master craftsman of a baker. Like I make the best bread and blah. It's like, what are you talking about? I told you we have enough bakers. There's no bread to be made. We need rocks broken. Go. So if you mess up, this is kind of like that. But
It's like, no, but you
more
don't
the interview
understand. I'm
process
so
here.
good at bread. It's like, you don't understand. We need rocks broken.
Yeah. You don't understand. If you can't break rocks, we can't use you. Yeah. So this is going to be a little different because it's like it's not Soviet Russia.
Right.
It's genie land.
Speaking of jobs, though, do you think you would rather have a job at Ricky Gervais's office or at Steve Carell's office?
Steve Carell's.
Really?
Yeah, because just throughout the show, first of all, he's like an easier boss to just ignore, and like it just seemed like an easier job than the American one. And that company actually ends up growing over time. It gets like bought and changes names, and everyone who works there, or most of the main characters, stay, and they end up making more money by the end. Yeah. All right, Joe. So I have a clip I want to play.
Do it.
This is from one of my favorite shows, Parks and Recreation.
And
where Ron
this is this for the audience. This is leading up to our mock interview or something.
Yeah, I just want to set the tone
All right,
with how
let's
this
do it.
guy does. This is really, I'm giving you a chance here, Luke, because this is going to be the baseline for the interviews.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, Keith, under sex, you wrote, yes, ha 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 ha. Well played.
Thank you. But all jokes aside, I'm a boy. Keith, I had this job for 4 years, and I can tell you, you get out of it what you put into it. What are you hoping to get out of it?
In like a month or so? Oh, what? What am I hoping to get out of this job? Yeah, like 1 month of money would be just right.
Let me give you a situation. You're hosting a town hall meeting for local businesses.
That's so much stuff. You just kept on going.
That was like one thing, and I didn't even get to the situation yet.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I think we've all seen enough. Still not totally sure what I'm applying for, but if you ask me, I think it went pretty well.
That's showing up way too stoned to an interview.
So yeah, there's people like that, I'm sure, that show up to an interview.
And God
That's
bless
one of my
them.
favorite-
Honestly, God bless them.
Why?
Because they boost
They
you
don't
up in the
deserve to be blessed.
percentile.
Wow, Joe. Wow.
I didn't say that. I asked why. Are you assuming my intention by asking you a question?
Wow.
So, Luke, welcome
you
to your interview.
Oh, Luke's first. Luke, you're up first. You ready?
All right.
So, hi, welcome. How are you doing? My name's Joe.
Good. How are you? I'm really happy to be here today.
So, let's just start with the basics. I mean, I saw your resume and your cover letter. So, why do you want to work for us? Why are you interested in us as a company?
Well, I've had lots of jobs from lots of different places, and this one really stood out. It seemed like it could be a really meaningful job, and it would also suit my particular skill set quite well. Excuse me, I have allergies, so it makes me cough sometimes like this.
Yeah, you have a tickle throat allergy. I hate those. That's interesting. Yeah,
it won't affect the job, though, sir. Sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that's some really interesting word salad there. So, moving on from what you said about skills, I'm very curious about that. What would you say? What skills specifically do you think you can bring to this job?
All types of skills of all types, flavors.
Right, specifically, name one.
Yeah, what is your strong
data analysis
of your many
is one of my strong suits.
Okay. Yeah, out of your skill set, what are you strongest in? Data analysis?
I would say data analysis is what.
Okay, that's good.
Excuse me, it's that tickle in my throat. I'm getting over. The last place I worked really had a bunch of dirty people at it, and they kept getting me sick. And I just really need a new job. I'm really
one
desperate
way to judge
for
people.
I'm
That's
really desperate for this
Speaking-
job. If you could just give me the job, maybe if you just give it to me now, can I have this job, please?
Okay, so speaking of,
I'm trying a different
workplace.
technique.
Well, all right. Well, it's my interview. I'll be the one asking questions and controlling it.
Joe just started your interview, by the way.
Yeah, there's multiple people who work in this company. You're gonna have to speak to several of them before you can work here.
I'm corporate. He's also corporate.
Yeah, we're just different divisions. Is that a problem? Do you need one-on-one interviews?
No,
Is
I'm
this too
capable of
upsetting?
having
That's
multiple
okay. We
bosses
just
and
need to
pleasing
know.
all of them.
Okay, so speaking of,
However they
all right,
need
so
to be
you-
pleased, I will be there, mouth wide open, ready to serve.
Excellent. You've already said enough on that. I'm not asking for more. Thank you. You made your point, Noah. So you mentioned dirty people, which is interesting to me, but speaking of workplace
I like
environment, that's
clean.
very important. We at this company, we promote really progressive ideals, and I'm just curious for you as a person who would be part of this innovative.
Did you just assume that I'm a
forward-thinking
person?
team.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I know
We're only hiring humans for this job. I'm sorry, I don't understand.
I'm sorry.
Are you
It
is
sounds
this
like you're
an AI
assuming my
program?
species right now. I guess we
Yeah,
can just
we're
continue
not-
on with the interview and pretend like you didn't just assume my species, but fine.
Unless
Okay,
you're a
let's-
certified service animal, actually, our insurance doesn't allow you in the building.
You're saying
you
words
have to
now,
be a
but
human
you're
or like
not
a seeing
feeling
eye
my
dog.
feelings. I can tell you that much.
So, anyways, back to the interview.
I'm trying to topsy-turvy you.
As a progressive, forward-thinking industry leader, I'm just curious, how would you in your daily life work to promote the ideas of diversity,
Almost
inclusion,
every day in
and
my daily
equality?
life, I'd be working for those ideals. Totally.
name me one
Examples,
specific
please.
way. Yeah, give us some concrete
let's
examples.
just say
specifically
considering-
along the lines of diversity, equity, and equality.
Well, it's
Go.
funny you mentioned those
Go.
words, Joe, because I was just thinking if you consider the, open quality to the reciprocalness upon which the deflection.
That's not a specific example. I
of
want names.
Society's view of history, a history, of course, of which not only was, in a secluded interpretive structure itself, but also, and not alternatively, but also inclusively, not exclusive to the people who were making that history. And now you really can see that I said a bunch of words and I put them into a nice narrative arc, and the people that don't know what the fuck I said will pretend to nod along and think that I said something, and now you should hire me.
I don't think any of that is what just happened.
Wow. So yeah, I meant in terms of like social issues.
I'm
I'm
wanted
not sure what that metaphysical rant was. I just heard.
I just wanted to hear if you were a Burger King or McDonald's guy.
sorry.
We're just normal.
I thought I
people
was
here.
applying
Yeah.
for a job. Are you guys progressive?
Yeah, this is a progressive, forward-thinking company leading its industry.
Then
and
why did you
constantly
just
adapting
disagree
to
with
new
what I
changes?
just said? Why
what
did you
kind of
disagree with
corporation
me?
would you- I'm not
sir,
sure.
you're not asking the questions here.
I'm not sure what you just said. I meant like
That's
diversity
dishonest.
of thought. I meant diversity of thought, equality of your opportunities.
It's not so much
for
what I said;
everybody,
it's what I felt
and the
towards you.
and the inclusion of different viewpoints. I'm not sure what that word salad rant was you just gave, but it's not looking good right now. You're probably going to end up on one of the lower levels of hell right now, scooping up demon dog shit.
I think we've heard enough.
Because you're going to get it.
Wait, what was the job interview
I think
for?
I've heard
I don't
enough.
even remember.
Assistant to the genie. Yeah,
Yeah,
he can't even-
assistant to the
All right, so
genie.
clearly he shows up on drugs to his genie
Which
job
isn't
interview.
in itself a bad move. That's
Right.
a good instinctual move.
Can I have?
Yeah,
can
we're
I
gonna
have,
make
Can
you
I have
eat-
another go?
Should we give him one more try?
Sure.
Okay.
Now that I know what the job is for, I thought I was interviewing for Ricky Gervais's The Office. Honestly.
No, you picked that.
Oh yeah.
I told you, this is Genie
So
Corp.
I'm
You're
trying to
get
be
a job
assistant
here.
to a magical creature known as a genie.
The problem is
Assistant
when you
to the regional genie.
Now you got to remember, Luke. No matter how you interview when you apply, when you interview at Genie Corp, the thing is you do get a job regardless of whether you want it or not. So the interview is more important than any other interview in your life because, like I said, you might end up on the 7th level of hell
If you
just cleaning up
displease,
after
yeah.
hellhounds, which is probably not a great job. Or you might end up in the Genie upper offices, drinking
Genie wine.
Genie wine and playing foosball with the cosmos, but in a fun way. Trust me, it's great. You'll love it. But we have to see how the interview goes first.
Where's he going?
Where's he going?
Is this mic plugged in?
Now he's
Yeah,
just
it is.
wandering around his
Yanka
apartment.
said she
Into
wanted to go
what?
to bed, so I was gonna change rooms, but then she's watching The Office in there. Funny enough.
I don't. How's your mic
You're
working
hanging out,
between
you're fine?
rooms?
Oh, she's eating Chinese
Oh.
food. All right, so we can.
all right.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt the interview. We can continue.
All right, so he walked in his interview, then just got up, walked around the building.
I kinda
and then
like
came
that.
back.
I kinda
in.
like that.
It's a strong move.
I
It's a
like
power
that.
move,
That's
but
the genie's. His.
I'm impressed.
His mic light is glowing quite blue right now. That's a good sign.
all right, so let's try this again. Welcome.
Oh, welcome.
Great start.
So, how long have
thank
you been
you for
fascinated
thank you for having
in genies for? When did your interest in genies begin? Let's start there.
I have to say that ever since I was a child, really, I've been really interested, and I am really excited to see what the future might hold.
Okay, that's positive outlook. That's good. We like optimistic, positive outlooks.
Good.
What do you think you could bring? What do you think you could bring? Well, you wait, barely wait for me to start talking.
Good.
That's part of the awkwardness you have to deliver if you're going to ruin an interview. You have to be so awkward.
Oh, you're really trying to ruin it?
I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to do, to be honest.
You're trying to
I'm
stay
not
out of the
sure.
seventh layer of hell through
Yeah,
your
there's a
genie
lot
interview.
at stake here.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that.
You don't want to be in the room where you get boiled. You don't want the job where we practice boiling you alive and reconstituting you. Like that sounds terrible, doesn't it?
That's not a job. That's just torture.
It's not,
No, you need feedback. It's data collection.
all right.
Anyways,
So how do you implement genie rules into your everyday normal life?
ooh, that's good.
Well, I think
Like genie
it's important
philosophy.
to find a balance there, and you'll hear a lot of genies say that you have to enforce your rule and the bets you make and the would you rathers you make. You have to enforce these with power, and you have to like violently demonstrate that people better follow your rules. All this shit. I happen to think that if you hire me, I'll find a way to get those people to remember their genie deals without violence. I'm a very persuasive person.
Oh, okay. Great. I love the confidence. Can't wait to see how persuasive you are in this interview.
I don't know.
I feel like
your
I'm persuading
definition
you right
of-
now,
of
Sir
violence.
Genie.
What did you say, Joe?
I don't like his vague definition of violence, where you say you wouldn't accomplish things through violent means. Like, what about potato feet? Where is that in the spectrum of violence?
I
just
mean,
funny.
how violent are potatoes?
That's a good answer. That's a good answer, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. All right, I think he's hired. I'm satisfied.
Yeah, I guess I have some other questions. Okay. So,
What are you, Joe, in this scenario?
Don't
worry about
I'm
it.
sorry. You're the one who needs a job. You should not.
I was
be.
just trying to show you that if you hired me, I would ask curious questions about
clearly
people.
He has issues with authority. He's spoken over both of us.
Yeah, it's not good.
He's accusatorily lines of questioning.
You want to turn his dick into a
appreciating.
French fry?
I probably did already. I
Yeah.
probably will.
Yeah.
Maybe sea cucumber. But so you're in a burlap sack with a dog, a chicken, a dog, a cat, and a snake. And the sack gets closed with some rocks in the bottom, and you get thrown overboard into a river. What do you do?
That just happened to me.
Yes. What do you do? It's hypothetically.
Cat, snake, me.
Cat,
Chicken.
cat, snake, dog.
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
I mean, I assume that the dog nor the cat will figure out how to use their teeth to get out of the bag. They're not that smart. You could kill
and
the
you're sinking
dog and
quickly.
use its tooth to, like, cut the bag open.
What do you
Okay,
do about the
it's-
snake?
Like, you could
heavy
just
burlap,
choke. You could
but-
choke the dog out, and then take
With the
its
snake?
See, that
There's
I
a
like.
snake in there.
Oh, wow. Did you not hear the question? It's a dog, a cat, and a snake, and you, and some rocks.
Oh, there's
and a
4
big-
total things in there.
and a heavy burlap
It's a big sack, yeah.
And you get thrown into a river, and you're sinking
So you're
fast.
also
What do you
drowning
do?
while this is happening.
The snake
You're gonna
really
kill it.
worries
You-
me.
you
The
pla-
snake is what worries me.
But you also can't see because it's pitch black.
What's the
What do you do?
positioning?
You find out when you get in the river.
What do you mean? It's a sack flying through the air about to hit the water with a lot of activity.
Yeah,
going
but like
on.
if
So,
if the cat
it's not a static situation.
if the cat and the snake were like further down by my feet and I was up by the dog, I would maybe chokehold the dog and like kill it and then like use its mouth and cut open the sack and then just kind of swim out of there.
You're forgetting about the snake eating you this whole time.
No,
yeah,
the
snake
snake
doesn't have to eat you; it just
the
bites
snake
you.
is busy fighting the cat.
Ideally, how are you going to guarantee that?
That's why I was wondering what the starting position of all these things was.
You're spinning through the air in a burlap sack.
Right,
Hurling
but
towards
like
the water
but
very
like how big is the sack?
Big enough you can all move around and get to each other, but you
What?
can't
So it's
get
like
away from each other.
as we're falling towards the water, it's like a big gravity plane where we're all floating around. Like how big is it? What are we talking? As big as my room right now, or
it's
as
like
big
an
as
army
my?
No,
bag.
I just said it's big enough that you can move your arms and legs, but it's not so big that you can get away from anyone.
So the snake is going to be fucking in free fall as the thing falls, and like it's going to land wherever.
yeah, along with everything.
It could
including
land
it.
right on my
And the
neck.
rocks. Yep. Or you could land on its neck.
So what's the question really?
All right, so he's failed this one horribly. I kind of want to throw it at Joe. Joe, what would you do?
I think you hope the. Wait, how does it go? You have to just hope that the dog eats the snake and the snake bites the cat,
That's not doing
think
anything.
that's
That's
it.
just hoping.
and then the dog.
It's still doing something.
What do you-
Oh, you don't think hoping it counts, Luke?
I was
He's just
I
meaningless?
was assuming the hoping actually.
All right, well, it's an interview. You should have told me that. You didn't. Your plan was to kill a dog,
angry you are,
rip
Johnny.
its jawbones out, and somehow use that tooth to gnaw. Like I don't understand. It's burlap. It's
Why are you so
dog
angry?
teeth aren't like knife sharp. They're sharp because the dog bites with them. Like if I ripped your canine out, I wouldn't be able to like cut through a swimsuit, like a wetsuit with
so
it,
stupid.
or cut a seatbelt open. It's so fucking dumb. Your idea is terrible. And then I tried to clarify it, and you're like, okay, so I'm still going to try to kill this dog. Ignore the cat and the snake. Rip its jawbone out.
Should this
and make
transition
it
to
tool.
Drunk Tank?
It did. We're there. Joe, what would you do? Oh yeah. No, you said. The right answer? Do you want to know the right answer?
Yeah, because this isn't about a job interview anymore.
Is you take the snake. Should we move this over to the drunk tank?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
You
let's
wanna-
end it
wait,
here.
you have to
you wanna leave a-
to find out the answer.
You want to leave a
You have
teaser?
to go to Drunk Tank. Yes, we're teasing.
Well,
into
look,
Drunk
the
Tank.
episode right now is at 1 hour and 11 minutes. Let's give
all right,
them-
so let's-
let's give them 4 minutes of a drunk tank taste.
All right. So then I'll tell you then.
Yeah, I don't want to tease them. You
So
know,
you guys missed a really key part, which I said there's rocks in the bag to make you sink. So you have weapons. So what you do is you got to grab that snake immediately, and you try to bite the dog with the snake.
Oh, you.
Oh
use
no,
the
I'm
snake
sorry. You
strap-
try to bite the cat with the snake, and then once the snake bites the cat, you got to break the snake's neck
How do you break a snake's neck?
Step on it.
with a rock.
Where
You take
find
a rock in the other hand, and you smash it together.
Thank you for clarifying.
So now
that.
you have a dead cat and a dead snake in the bag.
How'd you
What's
get
the
a
dog
rock?
doing this whole time?
So the dog is going to naturally
There's rocks in the bag.
The dog is going to naturally doggy paddle. Well, you
No, it's not. It's going to tear you to pieces.
no, it's going to try to swim.
Is it?
It might try to tear you to pieces while it's trying to swim.
Yeah, we shouldn't have teased them.
No, I actually don't know what to do. You're pretty much screwed. You know what
Well,
you do?
you know-
like Joe said, you hope the
No, this is an old George Carlin.
yeah, you hope
joke.
the snake bites the cat, the dog kills the snake. Then it's just you and man's best friend going for a swim.
Or I think he says. And
I
then
thought
you
the
kill
dog
or
died.
something.
No, you get the dog. What happens when the dog goes to bite you is you put some of the sack. You grab you know what I mean. You get the burlap into his face. You know you try to choke the dog out with the sack because he'll bite through the sack, and then you could both escape through it. And even if he's attacking you, at least you're on the surface of the water, getting attacked by an angry dog instead of slowly drowning with one.
I understand.
So I think I win.
I'm sold.
Do I get the job?
You know
Luke's
what?
about
I
to
give
hang up
you.
on us.
I'll give you
He
a
is about to
job.
hang up on us.
No, my hands.
I see now
My hands are
why
here.
Johnny always loses the hang-up game because he's just Johnny has no chance at winning the hang-up game right now.
I'm so far away.
He's
Luke can see
resigned.
all my arms.
Because I was all of a sudden in hang-up zone where I know like, oh, that's you just click the button now. But Johnny's so just sort of like laid back that it's not going to happen.
Johnny's playing the foot game.
I don't think you could pull it off.
Joe,
No,
let's
this chair's
just
broken. I'm too far away.
as we're closing this episode, if you could give the number one thing to do,
back to
to
advice.
get a job, you know,
Oh yeah, that is what this episode was about.
Yeah.
Nominally.
or wait, even better, give the number one thing not to do.
Oh, that's a good one too. I would say.
Do you offer the cocaine with them to them in the interview, or do you do it in the bathroom before and save some for after if they offer you the job? Then
You
shit?
definitely. I will say this: you definitely shit ahead of time.
always shit ahead of time.
Don't say it's like. Well, I mean that's a good life rule in general because has it ever happened to you where you think, oh, I'll be home in 10, 15 minutes, and then you get into a car accident or something like your car gets clipped and you have to all of a sudden share insurance information.
The rapture happens.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Stuff comes
And it's the
up.
same thing with job interview. Don't go in. Actually, you definitely don't want to go in like that. And also, my best piece of advice other than that is to just bring multiple resumes. Make sure you bring extra resumes. Because if you don't, and they start asking you questions from your resume, So those are my.
Because you gave them your only one and they're reading it.
Yeah,
front
if
of
you
you.
bring one, they're going to say thank you and take it, and now all of a sudden you
But
can't
if
reference
if I memorize my resumes, doesn't that make me way more impressive that I don't need it in front of me?
If you're, can you? I can't memorize a resume, nor do I think
Yeah.
can most people.
My own?
Okay, do it. I would suggest you just have it because it's an easier reference. But yeah, go for it.
I
So that's
guess.
my advice.
All right. So, would you say that? What would you say was the worst interview experience you ever had?
I was talking to this potential genie candidate.
Yeah, it was
earlier.
definitely when he thought he could be clever and hang up on me.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
and
so
he
saw
did
that
get
coming.
the job.
He did
not get the
He
job.
did not get the job.
Yeah.
What job would we give him if we had to find him a job at Genie Corp?
He would just walk around mopping all day.
No, yeah, you know what his job would be when the shipments of
Just not actually mopping,
when the
just walking
shipments
around
of
with a mop.
when the
back
shipments
and
of like the Genie lamp lube that you
Yeah.
gotta like shine up the lamps
Yeah.
with when that comes in because it's a very special kind.
Yeah.
when that comes in, like professionals load it and unload it. Every now and then though, some falls and spills. He's the guy that just stands there waiting to mop up those spills.
Oh, he just
mops-
waits.
He just waits
Yeah.
for a chance
Right.
to mop up spilled Genie lube.
and then he's got to kill it. Like he's got to.
He's got to be great at that job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because then if he doesn't, we'll just take his mop away, and he still has to clean it up.
Well, we'll replace his mop with like a python or something.
Right. It's going to be worse. Yeah.
and then he'll just get bitten, and we'll throw him in a sack.
Or like
And that's how you wind up in a sack with a dog, a snake, and a cat. In the
or
river.
Fantasia style, like he'll just have brooms for hands instead.
Yeah,
or mops for
I'll
hands.
have brooms for hands for like
It's
a
like, well,
week.
you kept
And I'll
losing
have to
the mop.
explain that.
Yeah. Oh, you kept losing the mop, but
Yeah.
guess what?
He'll have to go
That's-
back to regular land and have to explain that for a week. Oh,
Yeah.
why can't you play trumpet this week? Broom hands, you
Mops
know.
for hands. Yeah, broom
Also,
hands.
I can't talk to you on the phone because I can't pick up my phone because I have brooms for hands.
No, hey Siri, can you call the emergency for me? I have broom hands. Okay,
That's
I'm
the
on
same
that.
problem with Potato Feet when we were like, how are you you're going to show up to an emergency room with broomstick hands? What are they they're not going to they're going to say
you probably get some doctor published and make his career.
why? Because he says I can't do anything.
Still fascinating how it happened.
He didn't do anything.
It's like when
no,
you
it's
see
not,
it's
because
like,
they're not going to believe
like
you.
Or someone no, they'll see it. It's like when someone has a hammock on a tree for so long, the tree grows over the hammock where the rope wraps around the. You know what I mean? Where trees like grow around a fence or something.
All right, Ramon.
It'll be like that, but with potato feet or broom arms. Like it's still like, oh wow, how did this happen? And it'll be fascinating to study.
I mean, I believe you, but that's definitely his job.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll tell him. So he's gonna talk to you guys after this. Thanks for joining us.
What is he gonna say?
We should do. He's gonna say some nonsense about.
It's gonna be so stupid.
Who knows?
Sorry, everyone.
But yeah, no. This episode, if you have further questions about job stuff and interviewing and resumes, cover letters, we didn't really get into that, which we probably should have.
We'll edit it.
We should. Well, no, we should do more episodes because it's actually really useful information. Actually, no, I don't want people knowing this information. It's going to hurt my interview chances.
Your chance of getting a job.
All right, don't listen to any of this. It's nonsense.
You don't teach other people to count cards because then if everyone's counting them,
Yeah.
they're going to steal your cards.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, you know what, guys? You should definitely just go in loose t-shirt, sandals, flip flops.
Yeah.
You know, give them snappy, quick answers,
Yeah.
things like that, and don't hold eye contact. Right?
Yeah, maybe drop some racial epithets.
Yeah, definitely drop some f bombs or mention. Try to mention at least 3 separate ethnic groups in your interview.
Yeah, not
whether you know it's Polish,
Not
people,
negatively.
or just bring it up. Just find a way to reference, you know, the Canadians or you know, French people or you know, the something. Pick a thing.
Yeah, just be vague.
Yeah, the issues of Qatar going on. That you know,
Because you never know who might.
yeah, how you feel about the Arab Emirates. You know, just give them some honest, quippy answers. Try to be cute. The employers love that when you answer their serious questions with cuteness.
Make sure to cough all over their face too.
Yeah, cough into their mouth,
Particularly their eyes.
into any open orifice.
Open viscous,
anywhere
and or
where-
viscous orifice. Yeah.
anything with a mucousy lining. Try to cough.
I actually
or
have a
sneeze
lot of
directly
other
into
good interview stories, but maybe we can tell that on Drunk Tank or another episode.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, because I actually do know a little bit about this. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for joining, and yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
See ya
Later.
Yeah, fuck them. Obviously, I just won. Like, okay, maybe he told you his worst interview experience or something, but it turns out it's really easy to win if you're by yourself, especially on a laptop. I was able to sneak my hand right under the camera, and like I was hovering over the hang up button, waiting for the perfect time. Thanks for listening. Hope you got something out of this. Maybe you're about to take a job interview of your own, and please don't follow any advice we gave in here. Maybe follow some of it. If you're socially aware of when we're kidding and when we're not kidding, then go ahead and follow it. But otherwise, just assume everything we said was wrong. All right, see you next time. All right, thanks everyone for listening to the Thunk Tank podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a rating or a review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with people you think might like it. And if you really want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/ThunkTankPodcast. We have links to this in the episode description and other places. And for as little as $1 an episode, you can help us keep the lights on. And you also get access to a very special Drunk Tank feed of episodes. So every few episodes, we'll have a few more beers and record an extra 20 to 30 minutes of extra thunky, silly whateverness. So there's a separate RSS link you can get from there, and if you put that into a podcast player, you'll get your own separate feed of only the Drunk Tanks. I think we have about 6 or 7 of them out already, and more to come. Thanks for listening, and stay funky.